Chapter 7, Part 1, Pearl's Promise. "I'm going to take a nap," Grandpa Abe announced as he patted his belly. He grabbed his cane and shuffled across the crumb-coated kitchen floor. Ben had eaten a bologna sandwich and a pickle for lunch, but he didn't remember chewing or tasting them. He'd been thinking about the baby dragon that was lying on his bed. How long could it survive without help? The red-haired man with the dragon's milk recipe had said he worked at the old button factory. A person with a dragon's milk recipe might be a person who knows a thing or two about dragons. Grandpa? Grandpa Abe settled onto the patched couch. He stretched out his long, skinny legs and rested his head on a moth-nibbled pillow. "Can I go for a walk?" "Can you go for a walk?" "Of course you can go for a walk." "Thanks." Back home, Ben wasn't allowed to go on walks alone. Too much traffic, too many strangers. Plus, everything was so spread out in Los Angeles, it could take an hour just to get to the mall. But if Ben stood on Main Street in Buttonville, he could see from one end of the town to the other. There was no way he'd get lost. As Ben added his lunch plate to the pile in the sink, he remembered that he'd promised his mother to help with the chores. "I'll wash these when I get back," he said. "Okay by me." Grandpa Abe closed his eyes. "I'll be heading to the senior center later. There's an extra key to the house under the welcome mat, just in case I'm not here when you get back." He rolled onto his side. "Okay." Ben found a cookie tin on the kitchen counter. He shook out the crumbs, then set folded sheets of paper towels inside. After grabbing a rusty spatula, he hurried to his room. The creature lay on the quilt, its eyes still closed. Ben slid the spatula under the creature, gently lifted it, and set it on the bed of paper towels. For a moment he worried about the flammability of the paper, but no spark shot out of the creature's snout. "Don't be scared," he whispered. He put the lid on the tin, then carried it into the living room. Snores streamed out of Grandpa Abe's half-opened mouth. Barnaby perched on Grandpa's chest, leisurely cleaning his front paws. He seemed to have forgotten about the wounded creature he'd abandoned on Ben's bed, and he paid no attention as Ben tiptoed past and out the front door. Ben glanced back just to make sure his bedroom door was closed tight. Gripping the cookie tin, Ben set off down the sidewalk. Town Hall loomed in the distance, guiding the way back to Main Street. In just a few minutes, Ben stood in front of the dollar store. He barely knew Pearl Petal, but he needed her help. Even though Grandpa Abe had called Pearl a troublemaker, Ben felt he could trust her. After all, they'd both seen the giant bird, and she'd mouthed the word dragon. She told him that the giant bird lived on the roof of the old button factory. And she'd said she was going to investigate. If she took him to the factory, maybe they'd find the red-haired man who said he worked there. Ben hoped she hadn't left already. The dollar store's front window was stacked with all sorts of stuff you could buy for $1. Baskets, beach balls, bags of tortilla chips, and brooms. Voices drifted from the open window above the store. Glasses and silverware clinked. "Hello," Ben called. A head of blonde hair poked out the window. "Hey, it's you!" Pearl looked down at him. "What's that you're carrying?" Ben put the cookie tin behind his back. "Are you still going to the old button factory to find that bird?" "Yeah, as soon as I finish lunch," she smiled. "You want to go with me?" "Yes, because—" Ben tapped his feet, then looked around. The sidewalk was empty. The nearest pair of ears belonged to a woman who was walking her dog across the street. "I found something," he told Pearl. Pearl disappeared. A few moments later, the open sign rattled as she burst out the front door. "What did you find?" she asked, her eyes wide with expectation. A checkered napkin was tucked into her T-shirt. Ben narrowed his eyes. "You have to promise not to tell anyone." "Yeah, okay, I promise," she said, holding up her hand as if swearing an oath. "Because if you tell your mom or your dad, they might take it away." I said I promise. I always keep my promises. Ben lowered his voice. Then he slowly slid the tin out from behind his back. Remember how you said the bird looked like a dragon? Pearl nodded. Her eyes got so big they looked like they might pop right off her face. Did you find dragon poop? No, something better. Very carefully, so as not to startle the creature, Ben pulled off the lid.